there's no way to avoid, in this particular moment on this particular issue, after so much blood has been spilled against the backdrop of this history. It doesn't matter whether it's online or in person, there is going to be rage and anger and not just generational traumas, right? I mean, this is century-old stuff that's coming to the fore, and you've witnessed the kind of worst cruelty and tragedy that can befall people involving children and spouses and grandparents, and passions are going to be high. But what I will say is that if there's any chance of us being able to act constructively to do something, it will require an admission of complexity and maintaining what on the surface may seem contradictory ideas. That what Hamas did was horrific and there's no justification for it. And what is also true is that the occupation and what's happening to Palestinians is unbearable. And what is also true is that there is a history of the Jewish people that may be dismissed unless your grandparents or your great-grandparents or your uncle or your aunt tell you stories about the madness of anti-Semitism. And what is true is that there are people right now who are dying who have nothing to do with what Hamas did. And what is true, right? I mean, we can go on for a while. And the problem with the social media and trying to TikTok activism and trying to debate this on that is you can't speak the truth. You can pretend to speak the truth. You can speak one side of the truth. And in some cases, you can try to maintain your moral innocence by virtue of just grabbing that slice of the truth. But that won't solve the problem. And so if you want to solve the problem, then you have to take in the whole truth.
That's hilarious coming from him. This is someone who obviously trying to whitewash his image. There's one thing that Obama and Israel have in common, and as they are advocates and they engage in bombing hospitals. This is my little funny meme. This was Barack Obama after seeing Israel bomb a hospital and kill hundreds of innocent people. There's you have Israel that's bombing doctors and hospitals right now. This is Barack Obama. That's my boy. This is what I do. You know what I mean? So in response to that, I know you probably want to share more. Sabi had a great response, but actually I'll pass it to you for I don't want to spoil it. CJ, anything you want to add? I don't want to get too far into this.
No, this is a very short. It's a short segment. So, I can play a little more just so you can hear what he finished, what he says. But what do you think? Before we get to Sabi's take and some others, I do have just to show like other people's responses. This is a short segment. Because we know anytime Obama comes out, Nick, what's happening? That means that the Biden administration is not pulling its weight as far as carrying the narrative. The narrative is not penetrating from the Biden administration. So they reach in the bag. They first go to ghouls like Hillary Clinton. But when she doesn't, the hard-nosed tactics doesn't work. Like, get in line. She's the one that, get in line, get in line. when that doesn't work, and most time it doesn't, usually with her, then they start bringing out Michelle and Obama. But when they go straight to Obama, this is a indication that those poll numbers are sending shockwaves. This is an indication that this thing that's happening in Palestine is a big thing that's affecting the Democrats, and you're seeing how they have to straddle the fence. Let me translate what he said so far. What he said, he's basically trying to shame the people who's on the Palestinian side and saying, basically, you're getting your information online and you're getting a sliver of information. You need to get the whole picture so you can be on our side with Israel. That's what I heard. But go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. And you are 100% right. That was one of my first thoughts when I heard this as well. This is clearly him campaigning for Democrats. The messaging from the Democratic Party shifted drastically. And that's why I think it's important that we do propaganda report. I think it's important that you know what your enemies are saying so you can see what they should. I mean, you remember the narrative and messaging come for Democrats right after October 7th? We said many times before, we couldn't watch. We couldn't even do propaganda report. It was so enhanced.
It was
terrible. They went from that, and now they're like, man, these Palestinians going through a lot, man. Like, it's obvious that this change in messaging is based on the new polling and the fact that they're trying to save the party and save the Democrat, Joe Biden Democrat Party, because there's this New York Times article that is full of shit, and I may cover it either today or later this week, where they're like, man, Ukraine and Israel really shows the limits of presidential influence. That's like their premise. And I was like, you're full of shit. Everyone's like, you're full of shit. Biden is 100% complicit. There is a report that showed that U.S. intelligence is helping Israel. They have drones that are giving the IDF information about targeting locations. So they are directly complicit with the genocide. The United States sending warships and weapons to Israel. But now the new message that's coming, and as someone who studies this now, almost kind of in an obsessive way, I admit that, I've seen like this narrative where they're like, oh man, Biden's helpless here. Like in reaction to the outrage, the panic that the Democratic Party is going through. And then now they also virtue signaling support for Palestinians like Barack Obama's doing. It's so obvious, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they play out, because I see nothing but panic from the ruling class here. This is panic here. We got them by the balls. Zionists are losing the information war on a scale I'd never seen before. They took L's before, but I'd never seen this before, CJ. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, I'll just play a couple more minutes of it. Like I said, this is really not going to be a long segment because Barack Obama is here to prop up this system, and he's the savior. He's the go-to guy when it's time to get young people, not realizing he got young people who were young in 2008, sir. Or when was he elected? 2000. You know what I'm saying? That you know how many years ago? Those people are not teenagers anymore.
I was a dumb kid back then. I'm a completely different person.
It's a completely different person. So, oh yeah, you were part of the generation that was that young group that he got.
Yeah, I shamefully admit I was part of it. I couldn't vote in 2008. I was playing before I was just under 18. I was a senior in high school, 17, 18. I couldn't vote. But I remember being an Obama supporter, and then I voted. And then in 2012, I started to sour on him. I was playing many times before that. That was the one and only time I ever fell for the lesser two evils. I didn't really like Obama at that point, but I was like, man, Mitt Romney, man, that motherfucker is about to fuck shit up. It was so ridiculous, you know what I mean? So you gotta see the young me from high school that fell for liberal bullshit. I'm a completely different person. So the idea that Obama can still whip young people, to your point, which is a great one, is absurd. Like, everyone who was a part of that coalition are completely different. You know what I mean? But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, let's just listen to maybe another 90 seconds of this.
And you then have to admit nobody's hands are clean, that all of us have are complicit.
Now you hear what he's saying. This is a little bit amazing to me, Nick, I must say, because for those of all of us, and all of our members have been to protests, some of us multiple protests. If you think those steps you took in that protest, Nick, didn't do anything, the reason they're coming out even doing this is because they're seeing the thousands of people. They cannot overlook this, and the only reason the Democrats are the ones have to address it because that sea of people out there in Washington, D.C., it's a lot of their blue people out there. That's the only reason. So understand, the pressure of this mass movement for free Palestine worldwide has brought to bear Barack Obama coming out having to use this phrasing that we're all complicit. Because they have to understand, you can't just no longer just say humanitarian. No, you need to go further and say we are complicit. We're talking, you can't bridge the gap between somebody saying this is a genocide and this is somebody supporting them just simply by saying, oh, humanitarian. You need to go further. You got to go, okay, we are complicit. You have to, in order to bring some of those people back. They're never going to bring us back, Nick, but in order to bring some of those people back, you have to start using this sort of vernacular that he's using here, which to me is still sort of stunning to talk about in the framing of Israel here. But let's go.
To some degree, I look at this and I think back, what could I have done during my presidency to move this forward as hard as I tried? I've got the scars to prove it. But there's a part of me that's still saying, well, was it?
Come on. When he says scars, what is a person who's a billionaire? When they say scars, what does that really mean? Is it really scarves? And they're just like, you're just not pronouncing the F's. Like, does he really have scars from what? Now, he might be, in a professional managerial lens way, Nick, he might be referring to, he was the president who went the furthest, I guess, with critiquing Netanyahu. Maybe it was just a dance to pretend like he was progressive in public and they were really buddies and behind the scenes. But that was the whole dynamic. They're really jousting. They really don't like each other because Barack Obama is progressive. But as you just said, it was just a dance. It was just a theater.
Was there something else I could have done? That's the conversation we should be having. Not just looking backwards, but looking forward. And that can't happen if we are confining ourselves to our outrage.
What?
And even what
let's think about that. Confining yourself to be confined, you're constrained. Your emotions about seeing dead babies needs to be constrained.
Yes, CJ.
You see that?
Yes.
Your emotions about dead babies need to be constrained by U.S. hegemony policy with Israel. They conflict. Go ahead, Nick, if you're going to say something.
You got to see how civility politics is weaponized by the ruling class. They view your anger, which is 100% a tool of the working class in disenfranchised communities, to fire up and mobilize revolution and social change. So emotion, whether it be anger, intense anger, sadness, whatever it is, that's energy that is positive towards revolutionary thought. That is a motivational tool that we use. We cover things and we watch news segments that generally wouldn't interest me, but we want to show you how crazy the ruling class is. We want you guys to see how evil our government is. I'm not trying to piss you off for fun. We're not trying to make you sad discussing state violence for the heck of it. It's because we want you guys to use that as a tool to not support these people and mobilize for social change. You guys see how the ruling class fear that emotion? That's very telling. I didn't see this, so that's probably the most interesting part of the clip. One most interesting part, because that's very interesting that Obama just says it. They're afraid of that anger of people who've been victims of state violence and people who stand in solidarity with people who are victims of state violence now. But let's continue, CJ.
But it's very white supremacy-ish. Don't be confined by your emotions as you kill genocide an indigenous population on the United States soil. Don't be confined by your emotion as you slave, enslave, rape,
Yes,
steal, sell. You get what I'm saying? Don't be confined by your emotions with that. Just do what you need to do in order to make this country prosper, or whatever the goal is. So it's very telling to me. But let's get back to the video.
What I just said, which sounds very persuasive, still doesn't answer the fact of, all right, how do we prevent kids from being killed today? So
it starts at home.
Which is why
said the guy who notoriously bombed kids. Like, bruh.
Bad messenger.
Conversations that I've had with some of the young activists, I come with some humility and I say, look, I get why you might
bomb some folks.
Not want to look at history and context, and that's your
now you see how what Obama is good at, which it makes him dangerous for us, meaning against the revolution. What he's good at is recognizing mid-conversation, and then you just saw right there mid-sentence, I need to cultivate this for the audience that I'm trying to get what I'm saying. And if I just said it the way I want to say it, it would not come off well. No, so let me back it up and just let you listen to what he says here.
So, which is why
now understand he's trying to craft a message for the people who the 11% drop in Joe Biden's support in Democrats, the polling numbers of young Americans leaving, black and brown. He stopped mid-sentence to say, "Oh, this is for black and brown young people. I need to change this up."
In conversations that I've had with some of the young activists, I come with some humility and I say, look, I get why you might.
You see this pause here? This is a skilled propagandist, Nick.
Absolutely.
Skilled. The ability to recognize mid-sentence. And that look he has, that's a look of deep thought. That's a blank stare. That means you're physically here, but your mind is somewhere else. That's because he's trying to instantly mid-sentence craft the right message for who? The people that he needs to come back to the Democratic Party. This is why they bring him out. And it's very important. The reason I'm going into this detail is it very important that I always say this is probably the most dangerous propagandist on the face of the planet. This guy.
So, which is why in conversations that I've had with some of the young activists, I come with some humility and I say, look, I get why you might not want to look at history and context, and that's your primary concern. But the problem is that if you are dug in on that, well, the other side is dug in remembering the videos that Hamas took of what they did on 7th, and they're dug in too. And
now, if you didn't understand what he said, because he had that moment of clarity where he had to stop what he was saying, is to pull back in the language and not to offend. Because he's basically, what he's saying is, if you're not going to acknowledge that this is the Jewish holy land, that is what he's referring to. On the Palestinian side, meaning they have a right to this, that's what he's saying. Then the other side is just as dug in to whatever they believe. That is what he's saying, and he's trying to get us to side with him. And man, this guy's good. But unless, Nick, you had any further words, I wanted to end it on this part because this is a skillful freaking propagandist right here. And he does it with ease. He's like the Jay-Z of propagandists. Like, he just does it with ease and can just talk, don't have to write down lyrics. And just, you know what I'm saying? It's an easy thing that comes natural to him. And that's what this guy is. He would be a top salesman in any sales class that I would.
I'll pass that back to you, TJ, but I'm going to just end it with Savvy's point because she made a good point on this that went pretty viral on Twitter. So I'll capacity. Y'all just end on Savvy's point.
Okay. All right. So let me go to a couple of reaction, and then we'll end it with Sabby's reaction. I don't know if no, I did see it. Yeah, I did go. I think. Yeah, I did. I'm pretty sure I seen it. But let's just look at some people like Margaret Kimberly, for example. I always like to go to our elders just to get some reaction of this. And what does she
She's been on
say?
fire recently.
Yeah, she is a comedian too. I feel like her should be funniest. But she says, quote,
You
have to admit that all of us are complicit to some degree. And she says, nope. Meaning you are not us. You are not us. Lee Camp.
Let's go, Lee.
Yeah, wow. Not only does Obama take 3 minutes to give a non-answer on Israel, but he literally says, quote, I wonder if there's anything I could have done when I was president. Yeah, not endorse, fund, armed, genocidal, apartheid state. Maybe that. And then I thought, did I have yours? Did you have one? No, it was Nick right here. This Nick. Obama had the power to stop the 2014 Gaza massacre. His VP is now carrying out his genocidal legacy. In this clip, Obama shifts the blame to TikTok and social media. What a nightmarish joke. I wanted to end with that.
Next
tweet. I'll pass it to you for Savvy's tweet if you have it.
Yeah. I think this is a good way to wrap the segment up, and I think we can cover the Rogan segment as I think it fits well, because I got quite a bit to cover. But this is Sabby where she says, our amazing sister from RBN, Obama says all of us are complicit to some degree. No, he's complicit. Stop blaming Americans who don't make policy decisions for your war crime. So let's play a little bit of this clip, and then we can end it.
This is a serious issue that started 75 years ago. So if you want to talk about the history of Barack Obama, make sure you start all the way back then, where this is not just about religion. This is about the creation of an ethno-state. If it was just about religion, the Ethiopian Jews, the Palestinian Jews who are in Israel would be totally fine, but they're not.
Nobody's hands are clean. That all of us are complicit to some degree.
Nah, Obama, I'm not complicit to some degree. I'm pretty sure most of you watching are not complicit to some degree. We haven't been president of the United States. We didn't make these foreign policy decisions. We're not the ones that voted to give $8.3 billion to Israel every year. We didn't make those decisions, but you, Barack Obama, did. You were president. You were president for 2 terms. So don't try to put this on the American people, especially those of us that have not held a political position, because we did not make this decision. He's complicit. Wall Street is complicit. The military-industrial complex is complicit. The politicians in D.C. that support the legislation for this to continue and have continued to do so over the past couple of decades, they are the ones that are complicit. You don't get to push your war crimes on the American people. Who chose to bomb people in Libya? Us or Barack Obama?
Savvy's too powerful, bro. When Savvy drops a diss track on you, it's a wrap.